there. Almost ready. All right. Gonna give it a minute. Our connection is not right. Apparently, I don't know why. This is ridiculous. I don't know why the connection's having problems. So apologies for anyone that's tuning in that can't hear right away. What's going on? I hope that's the end of the connection problems. Hopefully that just keeps running smoothly from here on out. Just getting everything set up, and then we're going to get into what I learned listening to Tim Grover live, one of the coolest experiences ever. So stay tuned. There we go. All right. Guys, I hope you're all having a phenomenal day. And right away now, we're going to get into the podcast. Going to talk about Tim Grover live. That was freaking cool. So let's go, and we're going to get into the show in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we're talking about what I learned listening to Tim Grover live. Now, first off, if you don't know who Tim Grover is, he is an absolute stud. This dude trained Michael Jordan. He trained Kobe Bryant. He trained Dwayne Wade. Like, he is the man when it comes to basketball strength and conditioning. And obviously, we talk about a little bit of a different clientele on this podcast than basketball players, but lessons from a guy like this go across literally any group of people. Since the days training those ridiculously unreal names, Tim's gone on to write multiple best-selling books. One's called Relentless. One, I believe, is just called Winning. And he's gone on to do some absolutely incredible things. And on Saturday, last Saturday, I got to listen to him deliver a speech live. And honestly, it was one of the coolest experiences of my life. Now, the reason that listening to Tim Grover live was such a cool experience is because at this event that I was at, we had so many speakers that were so like hyped up and energetic and just like, they got everybody going. They got everybody on their feet. And Tim was just the opposite kind of energy, which really resonated with me, because when I'm in groups of people, I'm not that guy to be trying to hype everybody up all the time. It's just not always my energy. And there was a belief in me for a long time that because that's not my natural energy, I wouldn't be able to, achieve goals like speaking on stages and doing things like that. Now, that's one cool thing about listening to Tim, because his energy was very just authoritative. Like, it wasn't super hyped up and energetic. It was just very clear, concise. This is what we're talking about. This is my thoughts on it. This is why it works. And I really liked that. But we want to get into what you guys can take from it too as athletes. So the first thing that Tim talked about when he came on stage is a huge lesson that I think so many athletes need to learn, and so many athletes need to learn over and over and over again. And that is, before you can reach the level that you want to reach, you need to clear your heart. And what he spoke about was clearing yourself of other people's emotions. Now, why that's powerful is because so often other people's emotions are what put limitations on us. You don't want to tell your parents that you don't want to go to college and you actually want to go all in and do what you can to become a professional MMA fighter, because you're worried that they're not going to be okay with it, or you feel like you have to go to college because that's what they want for you. And so you put that limitation on yourself of, I'm not going to be able to train full time. I'm not going to be able to pursue what I want to pursue because my parents won't like it. And I know, because I did that for a long time. When I told my parents that I wanted to train athletes for a living, they thought, rightfully so, that there was no way that was going to happen. And they didn't necessarily support it for quite a long time. And I don't blame them for that, because in their experiences, they'd never seen somebody that did that. So they didn't really understand that it was actually a potential career. So when I had that conversation, I was basically convinced, well, you should do that as like a fun thing on the side, and you should actually, pursue a safe job like being a teacher or something like that. And then I was a couple of months into my degree in languages because I was going to be a language teacher when I thought, this is the stupidest thing. This is the stupidest thing that I've ever done. I don't want to be a language teacher. I don't want to do this. Why am I putting 4 years of work into something I don't want in the first place when I could be doubling down and going harder at the things I actually do want? So clearing your mind of other people's emotions. And the other places that Tim talked about this, number one is he talked about, people making fun of you. So friends and family. If you're pursuing this goal of becoming an athlete and you have friends and family telling you, oh, just be more realistic. That's not going to happen for you. Start thinking about your plan B, all these things that you hear so many people say to people that have big dreams and goals. You need to be able to silence that. You need to be able to not succumb to those kinds of emotions, those kinds of discussions when you have goals of doing something great with your life. Now, another part of this is, like I said, these people cause limitations on you. So this is something that not only you need to be aware of, but you need to work on every single day. And when I say working on this every single day, one of the things that, I know I do every morning and that he recommended people start doing as well is meditation. Instead of waking up in the morning and just grabbing your phone right away and seeing all the kind of negative bullshit that you're going to have to deal with, start your day off calming your mind. Start your day off centering yourself. Start your day off with a routine that's going to allow you to attack the day from a better place. So every day at 4 o'clock in the morning, I wake up. And one of the first things I do after I have a cup of coffee and a full water bottle so that I can get my brain functioning a little bit is I meditate for 10 minutes. And that meditation is just focused on the future, focused on the goals I have for coaching, the goals I have for my life. And the reason that that's so important is because then when I go on TikTok and I have some idiot telling me that I'm stupid because apparently energy systems don't exist and all you need to do is run for 25 miles a day, I can laugh instead of being like, oh, somebody doesn't like what I had to say, and then feeling defensive about it. And that doesn't distract me from the goals that I have, which is helping athletes understand how to train smarter and helping athletes elongate their careers, which in turn leads to all the personal goals that I have for my life as well. And so for you guys, finding some sort of routine that you can do in the mornings, some sort of routine that you can do every day that allows you to just bring yourself back to the present and focus on what actually matters and not let yourself get bogged down in other people's emotions, other people's thoughts, concerns, anything like that, is going to allow you to truly just focus all your time and all your energy on the goals you have, which is going to allow you to push further in your career. Now, the next thing that Tim talked about was because of these people and because of these emotions that we experience on a day-to-day basis that we let affect us, that leads to harmful activities. And now when he said harmful activities, he doesn't necessarily mean like self-harm, like people, cutting themselves or, any of the serious self-harm, but just little things. Like one of the things he got us to do while he was actually talking is think about the activities we participate in that every day that don't push us closer to our goals and actually push us further away. And when I realized when he was talking about that, one thing for me is watching TV. At the end of the night, I'll cut my day off and I'll sit and I'll watch 2 to 3 hours of TV. And every time I do that, why couldn't I have worked for another hour, worked for another 2 hours, and then watch an hour to shut my brain down? Right? I'm taking 2 hours of my day every single day that I could be using for something productive and not using it for something productive. And so what I want you guys to think about is, what are those limiting activities in your life? A lot of athletes train really hard and a lot of athletes understand how to push themselves. But what they don't understand is they don't understand that if you push yourself in the gym for 2 to 3 hours a day, but you don't understand how to fuel your body to recover, you're setting severe limitations on yourself. So maybe that limiting activity for you is, eating pizza every night for dinner instead of understanding how to fuel yourself properly. Maybe that limitation is similar to what it is for me, which is distracting activities like YouTube videos and TV. Maybe that limiting activity for you is the training itself. You're showing up to the gym, but you're not pushing yourself the way you know you can. You're not putting yourself in uncomfortable situations for fear of failing. But the second real lesson that I learned from Tim Grover was to be more aware of those limiting activities that I participate in and find ways to actually to actually bring myself back and make better use of my day. Because becoming a world champion athlete, becoming a business owner that has, X amount of clients, making a certain amount of money, making a certain amount of impact on the world, all of these things require the day-to-day actions. People think that they're just going to become, this great person that wins a UFC championship. Yet every single day, they're not putting in the actions required to be that person. And so being more aware of the harmful activities in your day-to-day, whether that's lack of recovery, whether that's poor nutrition, whether that's poor training habits, whatever else it might be, whether that's ruining all the progress you make on the weekend by going out and, have that whole work hard, play harder mentality, whatever it might be, being aware of those and finding ways to reduce, if not eliminate them, are going to be key factors in helping you achieve the goals that you have for your career, and in turn, helping you actually become the person that you need to achieve those goals. Now, one of the coolest things that Tim talked about in his speech, which really stuck out to me, was running into the storm instead of away from it. And the reason this one really stuck out is because this is one thing that I've seen with athletes of mine before. This is one thing that I see with athletes that I speak to on a daily basis, that when things get difficult, they step back or they quit. And, whether that's you're in a tougher financial situation, whether that's, work is kicking your ass and you're busy with work, whatever the situation is, when things get too difficult, people quit and they run away from the storm. But shifting that mentality and saying, instead of running away from the storm, whether that storm is work, finances, whatever else it might be, if you're able to run into the storm, figure out a way to fix the problem, figure out a way to get through the issue or the setback or whatever it might be, instead of stepping back and quitting because it's a difficult situation, that is what's going to prepare you for all the storms ahead. Because I promise you, as you move higher and higher through the rankings in your sport, it's not going to get easier for you. So if every time it gets hard, you quit or you stop or you step away, it's just going to keep getting hard and you're going to keep quitting and you're never going to actually make it to the levels that you want to make it to. Now, the way he spoke about that as well was he talked about how new days begin in the dark, and so do careers. So basically what he did is he stood up on stage and he said, what time does a new day start? And he got people answering. He said, people go, okay, it starts at midnight. And he goes, well, in most areas of the world, what does it look like outside at midnight? And people are like, well, it's dark. He's like, yeah, so the new day begins in the dark. Yet so many people are so afraid of the quote unquote dark times, the times with your head down, pushing forward where nobody's actually watching you. But all of that time where it's dark, where nobody's watching, where nobody's thinking about what you're doing, is preparing you to shine in the light. When you see athletes at the highest level, when you see, people with the world championship belts, with the NBA championships in his case, or whatever else it might be, people just see that. But what they didn't see is the 20 years in the darkness, the 15 years in the darkness, the 10 years in the darkness where nobody knew that person's name and they had their head down and they were pushing themselves relentlessly every day anyways, that led to them being in the light. The more you're able to embrace the dark times, the more you're able to sit here right now as an athlete listening to this, who nobody outside of just your direct circle knows or cares about yet, the more you're able to sit in that and be excited about that and be excited to wake up tomorrow and push yourself anyway, the better you're going to be prepared to step into the light and step onto the world stage. So that one was the one that really spoke to me. And I hope from the time you guys have been listening, whether you're here live or whether you're listening back on a replay, that you can take some good out of this one as well. I know I'm in the middle of an audiobook right now, but Tim Grover's books are going to definitely be the next on the list. I'm super excited to read them. One is called Relentless. I believe the second one is just called Winning. So I'd highly recommend going to check Tim Grover out, whether that's online, through the books, or anything else that he's doing. But guys, that is it. That is all. I'm likely going to do another one about this at some point soon, but I wanted to just condense them into a little bit smaller pieces so that they're a little bit easier to take and implement. Because the final point that I'm going to make, this is separate to the Tim Grover speech. The final point that I'm going to make is information without execution is pointless. You can sit and listen to this podcast every day. You can sit and feel inspired and motivated by, run into the storm when everybody else would run away from it, whatever else it might be. But if you don't do anything about it, it doesn't fucking matter. If you don't take what you're learning and actually apply it, it's useless. So I want to make these podcasts a little bit easier to digest and make it, a couple of key little takeaways so that you guys can take things from them and implement them into your daily life. So guys, that's it. That's all. I hope you got some value from this. I hope that if you did, you can send me a message. You can tell me what it was, because I always love to hear those. I get a lot of messages from you guys and they always make my day. So I appreciate you all. I hope you got a ton of value. If you did, I'd love it if you could share it with a friend, a teammate, a coach, somebody who needs to hear it. And as always, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll catch you on the next episode. So guys, I saw some questions roll in. Apologies for not